Back at it. More of a regular kind of car talk deal. Holly freaking Lou. Yeah, it's been... actually, well, yeah, no, I don't actually remember how long it's been. I've had one, maybe it was last week. I don't know. No, it was like 2 weeks ago or something. Or... No, 2 weeks. So, yeah, we're kind of approaching the week and a half mark. Something like that. But anyway, rambling aside, howdy, folks. Welcome to this whole ordeal. It's so fun. Look at all the fun we're having. But yeah, kind of. I don't want to say like back to it because it's like, did I really stop? Did I really ever go away? But we're just, I guess, back to it. Post Detroit Pro that whole weekend. Oh golly, gosh! And let me tell you, that was a weekend and a half. I didn't get as much footage as maybe someone would want, but it's okay for the fact that I enjoyed myself mostly. There were some moments where it was just like, I don't know. I have this thing where whenever I travel to big events by myself, I know a lot of, it's like a big thing where it's like, oh, you got to be able to enjoy the world by your lonesome and have it up. But like, I don't like, I can do that, but then it's just like I'm left alone with my brain. And while I do that fairly well, I'm a people person. Whenever I go places that are very heavily social kind of deals, you'll catch me wanting to be around people. And yeah, it was all right. It was pretty okay. I mean, the show itself was phenomenal. My overall experience, just from a me perspective, was a bit iffy. But yeah, no, I mean, it was really cool. I got to meet a bunch of awesome people. And now that I'm thinking about it, I might honestly throw this with my Detroit Pro kind of video. Is it just like this will be more or less a recap of that event, because like it was a hefty one. There was a lot that happened that I didn't quite talk about because like I don't know if I probably did somewhere, but we went to a expo in Grand Rapids. From that expo in Grand Rapids, we had to drive all the way to a Costco in Kalamazoo to do some salesman stuff, and then from that Costco in Kalamazoo I had to drive all the way over to Dearborn, Michigan. And then, we spent, the time over there for the Detroit Pro on that Saturday. And then the following Sunday, I had to be back in Grand Rapids again for the Expo again. So it was just, we were all over the place. It was incredibly tiring. Training, oh gosh, I totally didn't work out like nearly as much as I should have. So I had like a chest day, but then my back day, my pull day, and then my leg day never happened. And then today's an upper day, so we're upper daying and stuff like that. And I'm not exactly sure how this will play out. I might take some clips from another car talk that happened a little bit ago and throw it in with the footage of the actual workout that I'll be doing today. Just for the sake of, I feel like, we'll see how long this video is. I'd rather it not be like over an hour, because I found that a nice sweet spot for like video, for like length of videos tends to be that 30-minute mark. Anything like when you hit the 50-40 minute ones, depends on the title. The title can drag a lot of people in. It was actually kind of cool. The one video actually ended up with like 6 comments and like 6 likes, which is the most I've ever gotten on a video, which was really cool. We're getting up there. Plus, the YouTube itself has grown to almost 100 subscribers, so I'm very happy. Like that's so cool to me. It's like 100 people. They may not be watching my videos all the time, but they care enough to like, maybe on occasion see it in their feed and all that stuff, and I appreciate that a whole lot. So that's always kind of freaking cool. And yeah, so we'll kind of figure out what this video is, but let's do a nice hefty recap of the Detroit Pro, shall we? First things first. Oh my gosh, it was literally, I was like a boy in a candy shop, except instead of candy, it was giant men. Jesus Christ. I'm straight, by the way. I have a girlfriend. But it was very entertaining to go there and watch and see like these pro level competitors in person, because they are way more insane than I even imagined they would be. Like stature wise, absolute animals. It was so cool. And like, yeah, we started off with the classic stuff and prejudging for classic. Holy smokes, when Wesley walked out on stage, I was so freaking hyped and so very excited for that, because I'm a huge Wesley fan, and I really, looked forward to seeing him IRL. And there was this moment during finals, and we'll probably touch on finals a little bit more as I kind of chronologically go through it, where the announcer man had him like talking to the microphone. So like just to hear him talk live and not like through a phone screen, that was pretty baller. But all of that aside, like, you know, prejudging was very fun. You know, Matt Grego, Wesley Visser, of course, you know, Jack the Eagle, another guy who, you know, he's an up-and-comer in the whole classic pro thing, a British man of sorts, and I'm honestly, after his, like, seeing his Detroit Pro showing, I'm so excited to see how that man progressed, because he looked phenomenal. It's just a lot of the guys who beat him, it was a mass game, like, straight up, because I feel like his shape was probably... His shape is honestly phenomenal. The size of his waist and everything, like, he's built for classic through and through, and I'm very excited to see how he progresses, especially once he adds a bit more mass on his legs. Oh my god, it's going to be just one of the like most wicked, unbelievably balanced physiques you've ever seen. So I'm really excited to see him kind of, you know, grow as a competitor, because like he's someone I stumbled upon on YouTube, and then like I started watching him, like, yeah, because I mean he's a young guy, pro bodybuilder, and it's like I aspire. And it was really cool. I saw him as he was leaving the venue, kind of like walking out. And I wanted to stop and get a photo with him, but he had an Uber he had to get. So I heard him talking about it to another fan he was getting a photo with. So I wasn't gonna bother him and all that good stuff. So that was just, you know, really cool to see him just kind of off the stage, and you know, yeah, that was pretty nifty. And prejudging with that hitch, it was very evident right off the bat that Wesley and, you know, Matt Grego were gonna be the big two. Obviously, they even just during prejudging, they had them do some comparison shots and stuff, which I think everyone saw coming. Like, because I mean, respect to everybody who was there, but there really was no one else on that stage who had the caliber of physique that those two freaking dudes had. So it was kind of like, you know, a shoe-in to see both of them kind of do their stuff. And yeah, that was awesome. Then prejudging for the Open happened. And when I tell you, when those guys walked on stage, not only was I flabbergasted, I was taken aback. Like, it was size and conditioning like I had never seen before. And it was just absolutely insane. Like, the biggest just what the heck that I'm looking at kind of moment I had is when James Hollenshed, you know, was on, he took the stage more or less. Because I think he was the largest guy in that lineup, I feel. Like, at least mass-wise, he definitely was the largest guy between legs and upper body and everything. It was a giant. It was so crazy to see. And I'm just, like, sitting there in the audience going, like, what the heck? Because that man had the best back double by of that entire competition, I swear to sweet baby Jesus. But not to take away from competitors like Sass, which I don't know how to say his full name at all, so I'm not even going to try. But William Bonac as well. There's a one Canadian guy that was freaking just ginormous. Saw him after the show as well. And I'm just like, what am I looking at? This is crazy. And along with that, another guy who's from Detroit, kind of that area, that I don't remember his name, who was also built freaking insane. Like, when people say these are the, like, just to be even like in the top 5 of, like, you know, a pro show kind of deal, you have to be freaking insane. And like, that's what these people were. So it was crazy to see. It was awesome to see. And yeah, it was so bonkers. And I look forward, like, to maybe heading to another one. I might be going to the New York Pro, which I am honestly incredibly excited for, because, like, you know, a little trip over to the New York area. Although it's funny, the New York Pro is held in New Jersey. It's like, I think it's like, it's close to New York City kind of deal, but it's like across a bridge, but still in the other state. So I very well might be going to check that out, because, like, how some people, you know, I think attend concerts and stuff like that is kind of how I'm feeling about bodybuilding shows. And to be completely honest, the ticket prices are not too terrible, except for the shows that have 2-day things. Because, so, you know, they have, it's like group 1 prejudging, group 2 prejudging, and each of those groups have the different categories of stuff. And it ends up being like, you know, general admission, you know, for prejudging and stuff, it can be like, you know, $50-ish bucks, you know, per day, and, you know, per group. And then it's like another, that's like 70 for finals for both groups. And, like, you know, if you just had those kind of divisions you only really wanted to see, it's like a 2-day kind of thing for, like, you know, we're looking at $100-some bucks. So it's like, that's whatever. But then if you want to see everybody in the pro kind of category do all their stuff, you're looking at a whopping, like, 200 something, not to mention hotels for staying the night and other stuff like that. So it's hefty stuff right there. And yeah, it's crazy. But we'll see what happens. I might be going with my girlfriend, so that could. And it was we're gonna rave about her and just like how she's so cool and stuff, because straight up, it was like, she knows I do bodybuilding and stuff, and like we're gonna talk about her a lot. Just we've only been dating. We're approaching, I think, the 2-week mark, which is kind of silly, but she is sincerely an amazing person. And I asked her, because, she knew I went to the Detroit Pro, and I'm like, hey, like, next time I go to one of these shows, would you want to go with me? And she's like, well, yeah, of course. And I'm just like, what do you mean? Because, like, obviously I didn't, like, say it like that, but I'm just like, what? Because a lot of people, in their minds, it's just like, bodybuilding show, why the heck would I want to go to that? What kind of joy could I get out of that kind of whole shtick? And it's like, for a lot of people, not too much. But it was just the way she literally says, like, I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much as you, but I would be with you. Like that is the coolest freaking thing that she could have said. And it's just like, it's such a thoughtful way of going about it. Because, like, I'll never understand the people who are just like, oh, I'm trying to think of, like, how to think about it. But it's like, the people who are like, it's the equivalent of like, oh, your partner says they're hungry, and you'd be like, oh, I'll go, and then the last is like, oh, but are you hungry? Then I'm like, no, not really, but I want to like do that with you, so like, why wouldn't I? It's that, but for a bodybuilding show, which is a little bit more pricey than maybe like swinging by a McDonald's for a fry or something like that. So it's just like, for her to like have that kind of thought process on it, and just like, I don't know, I found that really cool. So we might be making a little trip to New York City because she's never been. I have, and I think Manhattan, Brooklyn, all that stuff, Queens are really cool. So I think it'd be fun if we're in a hotel room. We might as well like check out the area whilst we're over there. So that could be fun. But yeah, and with that, I mean the New York Pro, they got shucks. I think his name's like Ken or something, but it's this guy who went from like doing classic, and pretty much the entire time he was in classic, it was just like it was hard for him to like really kind of cut back weight, because when he would try to make the weight cap for classic, essentially what would happen is just like he would just lose a lot of size in that process, and not like fat size, like actual muscle size. So he said, screw it, we open now. And recently I've been like following him on Instagram, stuff like that. The man is absolutely insane. He literally, I'm looking at him and stuff. He's still a little fluffier because his, I think, first open debut is going to be the New York. Oh, Jesus. It literally is insane. This entire year for the open class, like, is just bonkers. And it might always be this way. I might just be a little silly goofy. But it's like, there are so many, it seems, top contenders for that, like, number one spot, like, at the Olympia. It's bonkers because it's like, Good Vito's looking freaking insane. I think he has this upcoming weekend. He's going to be at the Arnold South America. I mean, he's going to win that. I can say that pretty comfortably. And then after the Pittsburgh Pro, which then we'll see a new and improved, and more or less Nick Walker coming back to stage, like after a little kind of Olympia hiatus from this last year. That's going to be extra crazy because, like, his updates look freaking wicked, and I'm so sick. We get to see also a new and improved, like, Martin with some extra oomph on his, like, frame. And Martin Fitzwater, met the guy in person. Stupid chill dude. Like, literally, he is just a chill guy. And it was awesome because, like, when I walked into the Detroit Pro, guess who was, like, walking in the same time as me? Literally got out of his, like, car. And as I'm walking in, he's, like, walking in too. And I literally just go, I'm like, dude, you are so much freakier in person. This is crazy. And he goes, oh, thank you, man. And he walks into the expo room. And I'm just like, nice. And then I went up, took a photo with him and stuff. Like, I mean, we were chatting a little bit more, and just like, it was crazy because, like, you see these guys with their large arms, and you're like, yes. How big can these arms be? His arm sincerely was the size of my head. It made my thighs look freaking sad. It's just built, and his structure is amazing. And he did a little pose down, like on a surprise guest posing thing, which is really awesome. And yeah, and then so we have him kind of coming from fourth place at the Olympia, Derek's package at the Arnold was impeccable. Hadi might be something. I'm not really sure what's up with him. I mind you, I'm not following him on Instagram or anything. Maybe he has been doing some physique updates, but I don't know if people know what show he's doing or if he's just going right to the Olympia, or what the deal is there. But maybe he could come back because we saw his package from last year, shreddedness impeccable. If he could put on some more size possibly, and have that same level of conditioning, oh God, I don't know what would happen at that point. And then we have, of course, good old Samson Dauda. Got to talk with him at the freaking Olympia, not at the Olympia, at the Detroit Pro 2. And let me tell you, it was just so kind of awe-inspiring just to be talking to a Mr. Olympia, because it's just this man has reached the top of the top. This is someone who did it, actually. And to me, that's crazy, because it's for me, it really is one of those things where it's in my wildest dreams, it kind of how the Olympia seems to me right now, because it's just I don't know. I doubt it's even possible for me to get to the point where I could even make it to the Olympia stage, to be completely honest. But we'll do our darndest. And to meet him, talk to him about his little kind of press, his Olympia press conference thing, and for him to be so soft spoken, for him to be so genuinely enthused to talk about that kind of thing, and it was just insane, because I brought it up. He's yeah, man, there's the way that kind of happened that was so cool and stuff. And then he goes, and then I won the thing, and I go, dude, that was icing on the cake. And then he repeats back to me, he's yeah, dude, that was the icing on the cake. And just dang, what an upright gent. I'm so happy that he's the current champion, because the way he carries himself, the fact that he put himself in the line of fire in regards to the Arnold, and putting himself in a position where it's he could get his butt whooped even as Mr. Olympia. And he didn't get his butt whooped. That was the spreadsheet wasn't as close as other things, but the score sheet, but dang, it was an outright amazing little kind of 1v1 him versus Derek. And the thing is, that's the one thing I think Samson is just a great ambassador for the sport, because he still competes in the sport, in the when he doesn't really have to. It's kind of a thing where Olympia champions would just do the Olympia. And, I think there's an okay way of doing that and still being a good ambassador for the sport. I think how C-Bum went about it with, uploading to YouTube, being, pretty social media active and stuff like that. That was his interpretation of it. Samson, he's still on YouTube, and I love watching his content and his videos. But just, he does it more in the actual, in-person kind of way. And I feel both are very acceptable, because both kind of hit certain audiences of, bodybuilding. Samson maybe more towards the actual kind of people who go to the expos, go to the shows and everything. And C-Bum just more of your average, just kind of lifting online enthusiast. And I think both are incredibly awesome. So it's cool that he does that. But now let's kind of talk about the finals. I want to start with talking about the Open for the Detroit Pro. William frickin' Bonac. Oh my God. I can't, people, it's insane. So people will talk about just what's the point of heading to the Olympia if you place low? And I think the last place William got at the Olympia, which was back in 2022 is when he last competed, was, I think 9th or 8th, or from what I recall. This man showed up and looked like a top 5, Olympia placer. This man's conditioning, overall bubbliness, and everything like that, oh my gosh, it was just amazing. It was impeccable. And for taking a bit off and coming back, he won the Detroit Pro. It was one of those things where you saw him on stage next to the other guys, and you're there's no other way. Just the fullness and the conditioning, the combo of the both, and the size, it was out of this water. And Sass, he could have been the one to dethrone him and maybe take that first place, but it was just, I think the size William had and just the overall fullness in his overall package was just, it edged out Sass in just different ways, more or less. And the thing is, whichever way the judges would have gone between those two, I completely would have understood. But yeah, that was insane. And that top 4 in general was just really wicked to see kind of get compared. And I wish I could remember the names better, but it was good old James, Shed, which, oh man, he was a crowd favorite. It was really cool to see, because people loved seeing him compete. When he was doing his individual posing routines, people were hoo, and all that stuff, which was really cool. And then that brings us to, Finals for Classic, where we saw Matthew Grego win the first ever little classic competition of the Detroit Pro, which I think, pretty dang well deserving. Like, between him and Wesley, it was close. It was apparently it was like a 1 point or something like that kind of made or broke the whole ordeal. And that was like, it was so cool to see like that kind of split tie, like decision making happen live at a show, because it really came down to like, were the judges going to give it to Grego for the more complete package, or give it to Wesley for the sharper conditioning and just the overpowering upper body. And like, of course his legs still looked great and stuff like that, but they were just lacking in comparison to Grego. And yeah, I mean, I think they did make the right move, even though I'm a Wesley fanboy through and through. I actually it was a weird experience. So I sat down, and there was a woman in front of me, and she was like, shouting stuff. I think Dutch is the official language of the Netherlands, and like shouting stuff out in Dutch out to Wesley. And I'm like, wait a second. It's not like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Marley, who was like Wesley's partner. And I lean up, and it was kind of weird, because I highly doubt she expected anyone to talk to her. And like the fact I'm like, I started by saying, hey, are you I used your name, and it definitely was a weird thing. I could tell she was a little bit like, who the heck are you, dude? And so it was like, that was a bit weird of me, but it's like, I kind of told her, it's like, I love, what you and Wesley do as far as content goes. I think like you guys are really inspirational, just like with how you guys, display your relationship, your family, and everything like that. I just think it's overall a really fun thing and a really good thing to see. And she found it a little weird, I think. I don't really know, but it was, it's just cool like to interact with like some even like side characters, more or less. And that sounds kind of mean, but it's like, the people who are like, still a part of these bodybuilders' lives, just like to interact with those people of the team that help make these bodybuilders more or less successful. Like, everything about it, I just thought it was really amazing and really, really freaking cool. So yeah, I think Wesley, how he handled like the aftermath, some of the video footage I've seen, and just some of his posts from after the fact, it's really nice to see that he's going to be going into a nice hearty off season. Ever since he won the Arnold Classic back in 2024, that man has just been kind of more or less going through it, it seems, and a lot of pressure has been put on him to like kind of rise to the occasion of winning the Arnold and everything like that. And then all the dogging ever since Sommerfeld got second, and just all the, he might be classic, but he's not good for classic kind of deal, or like good looking for the classic division right now. So it's really interesting to, it'll be really interesting to see what he does, and how he comes back next year. I'm very excited. Who knows? Maybe when we might see him switch to open, which oh God, he switches to open. Oh, good luck to everybody else, because it's, obviously, once you get like large enough, the possible aesthetics you get from kind of having the weight cap and the classic kind of thing can get a bit iffy. But especially with Wesley, I just don't see him losing those aesthetics with more size. Matter of fact, I could see those aesthetics possibly popping out more, because if he's really able to get like larger legs, his current like Y frame of what I would call it would become like, maybe not like the most evident X frame, just because he has narrower like kind of leg insertions, quad insertions, but good lordy, that man would just become an absolute behemoth, and it would be really, really, and that's kind of the thing also. It's like to see a lot of these like different classic guys, try out open. I feel like a lot of people are just like, that'd be pretty cool. I want to see that, because like, at least for me, because I'm a sucker for mass. I think like the larger, the freakier, the cooler, admittedly, which is weird, because someone who's 5'6", it's like I would love to like try out the open, but I have this real kind of yin yang thing going with more or less bodybuilding as a whole, for the fact it's like I want to get freaking freaky and huge, but then at the same time I don't want to put myself in a position where like heavy health complications can happen. Like I don't, oh geez, if I had to get like a sleep apnea thing or something for sleep apnea, I'd rather not get to that point. Because so like the dream would be like, compete 212, something like that, lighter weight, or compete in classic at a lighter weight, or just like things like that. Because the extra quirky part with being short is the weight cap, I think, for maybe for the IFBB, I think at my height is around 187. And then it's like, the weight cap for, 212 is, of course, 212. So it's just like, it's just so weird. Because, it's fortunate that I'm short because, like, before I would go, to the open, I could check out 212, see how that works maybe. And, honestly, Lunford's, he's on stage at a whopping, like, 230, 240, something like that. So it's like I'd only be a couple pounds of lean muscle away from him, but I don't know, it's so weird to think about. And with that, your boy's getting blood work done officially. I at the Detroit Pro, the boys at Merrick Health, I kind of chatted with them. We shot to the shit and all that stuff, and signed up to work with them to get some blood work and stuff done. And also, I talked with like a pre-workout company, Mutant. Actually, I got some of their sample packs here. Phenomenal people. I honestly, like, after just interacting with like the team that they had right then and there, and then seeing who they got on their kind of roster for athletes, I'd like to work with these. I just want to work with like a pretty like awesome like supplement company to begin with. It's one of those things where it's like I don't want to work with a company because it's just like, oh, it's the cool thing. I want to work with a company that has a reputation of like being a bodybuilder's like company, the place where the roster of the athletes is your favorite bodybuilder's favorite bodybuilder kind of ordeal. And I think like to kind of work with a company like that, I don't see it as just like, oh, money. I see it as like I'm legit enough where I get the chance to work with these kinds of companies. So who knows, maybe I might be able to affiliate my way into being on their team. I don't know, because the thing is, I thought I was like, kind of hot crap for a second. I felt like, pretty large, because like where I work out, it's whatever. But then I see these pros in person, and like straight up, when I met Martin Fitzwater, I might throw up a photo of it or something like that. He weighed 100 pounds more than me, and he's like 2 inches taller. And like, the way he looked and the way everything, Jesus freaking Christ. And the man's he's awesome. He was so nice to talk to. And then it was cool. Got him at, Fua. I got to talk to Fuad, Seth Feroci, Ian Valeri. I've heard his name pronounced so many times that I can't even remember how to say it right. But like after, me and having little chats with all of these guys and stuff like that, it just like, it reaffirmed, it's like, oh, we're doing this. And we are doing this to the best of my freaking ability. And we're full sending it. And it's interesting. I made a video, one of these YouTube video kind of deals, talking about it's like, yeah, we're gonna be hopping on sometime eventually, and a lot of people, actually, Instagram, across TikTok, a lot of people, and even like my like little consultant or person I kind of talk to with Merrick and stuff like that, being like, I don't know, man, and it's this whole ordeal where it's like, people don't really seem to understand maybe the other side of wanting to hop on to an extent. Because, like, of course, there's, like, the whole, it's like, yeah, muscle, and things. But just, like, I don't know. People, like, see people do it, and it's just, like, this whole ordeal where they assume that people want to be Mr. Olympia someday. And it's just, like, I know I'm probably not going to be that. I can kind of understand that. But the reason I want to, like, still do it anyway, even though it's like, success in the pro kind of area of things might not necessarily be the best, is because, like, you're not going to catch me leaving stuff on the table. You're not going to catch me, with leftovers or with regrets or anything like that. You're going to catch me doing what I do to the best of my ability, within reason, because it's just like, I'm not going to be, like, blasting, like, crazy amounts of stuff. I want to keep it very, very minimal because, like, I still want to live a good life after the fact and everything like that. And I hope to, more or less nail it and just do what I can. Like, hell, there were guys that I kind of looked up after the fact, after the Detroit Pro. They placed, pretty typically, coming like 4th, 5th place in pro shows. And that is a feat all by itself. Like, if I can place, have a couple top 5 finishes in some, like, pretty, like, notable-ish pro shows, like, I'd call that a win. Like, obviously, I'm not going to be a successful bodybuilder to a lot of people, but, like, do you know what it takes to even place top 5 in some of those shows? Like, I think in the Open or something, there are like 15 guys or something crazy like that. And, like, to beat out 10 other professional bodybuilders, that's still a feat. I really don't think people realize that. And because it's just like, I don't know, it's, yeah, of course there are going to be possible problems. Or, not taking stuff is going to be a lot healthier than taking stuff. But, I'm a sucker. I'm a little ambitious. And I have things I want to do, and I have things that I feel I need to do, or else I'm just not going to be happy with life. And not in a sense, it's just like, it's not a FOMO. It's not like, oh, I know, these people are on stuff and things, and look at all the success. I could care less about the kinds of success people are trying to get by, having a roided up physique. I want the kind of success that comes mainly from being just good at training, good at dieting, good at knowing, how to pose well, good at, doing just bodybuilding shows. I want the success I have in life to kind of be just to stem off from that. And that's kind of what we're going for. This was a hefty car talk, 30 minutes, dang. But yeah, with that, we're going to hit a wicked little upper day kind of deal. And yeah, it's pretty nifty stuff.